Sakegesprek met Theo Vorster in collaboration with Bonitas. Lee, welcome.
Hello, Theo.
The question of joining a medical aid is for most people a big, daunting question. What should you take into consideration?
Most definitely, it is a challenging one, and it's filled with a lot of information, a lot of jargon, terms and conditions. But in short, Theo, the starting point is understand your healthcare needs. Second of all, it comes at a cost, so understand what you can afford. So to go into the specifics around understanding one's healthcare needs is, take into consideration in terms of whether you've got a chronic condition, whether you're going to need some surgery in the future, whether, the kids will see a dentist or that an optometrist has to be seen. So factor in those aspects for yourself and that of your family. But as we know, we can't predict the future. We live in a very dynamic environment, and you can end up in the need for emergency services and surgery. So factor in those aspects that you have enough in terms of day-to-day benefits. But, rather than also being reactive, consider proactive in terms of preventative care. What preventative care benefits are there? So I can actually take a proactive way of managing my healthcare to prevent myself from getting sick. So those are some of the healthcare aspects that you consider. Financially, our advice always through brokers is, your healthcare should be around about 10% of your household expenses as just a parameter. So in short, those are the two elements in the main that you consider.
If one looks at specific terms and conditions, would you highlight some?
Yes, first of all, there's a lot to be considered because medical schemes are regulated under the Medical Schemes Act, and you have to consider a lot of the information that's available. But first of all, you have to do a comparison when you choose an option or a scheme. And most schemes these days have got exciting tools available on their websites where you can actually do a comparison around it. And the reason for it is that you need to consider in terms of if you take an option where you might need to utilize a network or there's co-payments, etc. So the actual benefits and limits are very important in terms of considering that level of detail. Most people perceive it that your medical aid should cover everything, but it doesn't cover everything, and therefore that reason why you've got a wide range of options to cater for your specific needs and wants.
How do you approach the people that's dependent on you? And I'm talking here about broader number of people around you that you want to care for. How do you approach that?
Theo, as I mentioned earlier on, the starting point is in primarily considering your healthcare needs. That's the starting point. However, with that said, if you also bring it back to regulation, which is the Medical Schemes Act, when it comes to your own kids, you have to consider obviously their age and what they will be going through in terms of their life, their healthcare needs, keeping in mind that a medical scheme is an open enrollment system. We can't deny anybody access to it, and not on age either. So anybody can join, except when it's a closed scheme that is limited for specific employers or employers. Then we can limit, and people can't then join those schemes. However, for special dependents like your mother-in-law, father-in-law, etc., what the Medical Schemes Act makes provision for is underwriting. So when those members which are considered special dependents, we can underwrite, and we consider aspects such as, general waiting periods, condition-specific waiting periods, and late joiner penalties. And that is all informed if those type of dependents weren't previously on a medical scheme. And for that reason, once again, it's important to continue staying on a medical scheme, dependent on your financial position.
Lee, your view on intermediaries or brokers assisting clients?
Absolutely important. They're such a critical stakeholder in the entire healthcare ecosystem. They are regulated and being managed also under the Medical Schemes Act, and they are actually accredited to give advice and specific advice when it comes to healthcare needs and individuals' financial decisions in relation to that healthcare need and the option that they would join on. So they're a critical component to it. Keeping also in mind it doesn't cost the member or the client anything more to utilize a broker, because that cost is already covered by a medical scheme and once again regulated as well. So in short, important part of the system.
Lee, thank you very much.
Thank you, Theo.
Sakegesprek met Theo Vorster in collaboration with Bonitas.